Yep, Keith, you can start.
Hello, everyone. We'll give another few seconds for some folks to join us. Welcome to today's EDGE-inar. As always, we try to have one once a month here at EDGE, Ethnically Diverse Geospatial Engagement. We're going live on a few different channels, so want to make sure we give people time on those channels to jump in here, but we're going to not waste time and have a power-packed hour of great information and hopefully some inspiration to share with you. All right, let's just get started. Some people will join us along the way. My name is Keith Andre Searles. I am the founder of EDGE and the CEO of Urban GIS. EDGE stands for Ethnically Diverse Geospatial Engagement, an organization that's a little over a year and a half old in terms of formally being a 501c3 nonprofit focused on bringing more DEI best practice to the geospatial industry and bringing more awareness and understanding of opportunities within GIS and geospatial to the community. Today, we're going to have an awesome panel representing some different companies who are very near and dear to EDGE. And this is our first corporate partners sort of crosstalk. This is a chance for people to learn more about DEI in general, but specifically about how some great small businesses are doing amazing things within DEI, how they're passionate about DEI, their why this is important to them. And I think it's really inspirational to see companies that aren't a large size, but are doing some major things within their organization. So it's a great testimony to the fact that you don't have to be large, you don't have to have a huge. Okay, sorry, got muted there. One more second before we kick everything off. I want to make sure I have no disruption. Okay, let's continue on. So if we can go to the first slide. All right, so a little bit about our EDGE team. Some of you have had the chance to meet with our team, Sebastian and Daniela. Both are doing an amazing job. And as you might be aware, we're looking to create more partnerships and to strengthen those partnerships and to promote more collaboration. So you'll be hearing from our team and from myself around doing things like this, being a part of our EDGE-inar, about how we can cross-promote with respect to activities that you're doing in your organizations with DEI, how we can support one another in this way, and just really be a team and community, because that's what EDGE is all about. It's about building a network, it's about building a community, and we need your assistance and support to do that. We're especially targeting a lot of the larger professional organizations within our industry, and already are, at a great start with organizations like AAG and like ESRI-YPN and some others. And actually in November, we're hoping to have another segment like this, but more focused on the professional organizations and some of the great things that they're doing. So stay tuned for that, as well as some other things I'll share at the end of this presentation in terms of ways you can engage us at EDGE Geospatial. Next. So at EDGE, we're going to talk about the 4 pillars. I've already kind of gone over what we're about and what we try to do. Really, there's 4 main things. We look to make an impact and make a difference with job diversity. If you can go to the next slide for me. And so that's helping to build a broader and more robust base of diverse talent within our industry. And what are some best practices and some ways that we can do that and some ways to attract the talent, retain talent. We talk about business diversity, how businesses can work together collaboratively, like you're going to see today, small to small, small to large, how we can increase diversity from that standpoint, and not just diversity, but equity and inclusion as well. And then also we talk about corporate responsibility and DEI education and being able to reach out to the community. So these are the pillars of EDGE. This is what we're all about. And we hope you can join us in participating this way. Next slide, please. We always want to thank our sponsors. We're here because of our sponsors. You know, we are a 501c3 organization, and it is so important for us, as this is a foundation of my company, Urban GIS. We're a small business. We spend a lot of time and energy and effort on this. We're always looking for more corporate sponsors who want to be a part of this team, help us to extend the capacity in what we're doing. And we really want to thank those companies who have taken those strides. You're going to actually have a chance to hear from two of our corporate partners today, GeoMarble and Northpoint. We also want to thank Bolton and Mink and others who've been supportive of the various endeavors that we've done here at EDGE. Next slide. All right, it's time for the main event for the show. We have an all-star panel here, longtime GIS, all-stars and just rock stars in the industry, but most importantly, people who are very passionate about DEI and getting young people involved in this industry and making a difference. And I'm wearing a shirt here today, Be the Change. These are change agents. They have decided individually and corporately and within their corporations to make sure that they can have a meaningful part of being the change. So just briefly, if everyone can just, we'll go right down the line, briefly introduce yourself, and we're going to come back and give a little more time to share more about you. So I see Kevin, you're on the screen. Let's just go with you first.
Ooh,
Sure.
That's me.
Hey.
Okay.
Or John.
Hey, John, why don't you go first?
Okay. All right. John from GeoMarble. Nice to be here with everyone. It took me a little while here. Can you go back to that slide? I actually want to tunnel into this. New dad here, so I wanted to pick a sort of a humanized photo here. So pretty excited to be here. Thank you, Keith, and the rest of the EDGE team for having me. I'm currently the CEO at GeoMarble since 2015, and talk a little bit probably throughout this a lot about GeoMarble, but I'm trying to mostly focus on myself and my involvement here. Next slide. GeoMarble, we have been around since 2015. We are classically a geospatial software development company. We've been an Esri award-winning partner a number of times, and we typically focus on being a system integrator for our customers and clients. We have a wide range of professional services offerings and managed services for GIS customers. Next slide, please. Again, we are a GIS partner, and we primarily work in the Esri space. So wanted to take a minute and just show where we specialize as a business. One is in the ArcGIS Cloud Services, local state gov, system ready, as well as others there. And then we've won 2 awards recently, the Partner to Partner Award. So this is a great example of that. Most of the businesses here on this call are Esri business partners, and we as a business take a strong interest in partnering with other partners and collaborating and going to market together as businesses, leveraging each other's strengths and areas of expertise. Next slide. We break our business down into a couple different sectors, right? System implementation, custom application development, managed services and trainings and workshops. If you're interested in learning more about GeoMarble, I definitely would say reach out. Next slide. I picked this slide here to just bring a montage of almost diversity of projects. Something I think really, really special about GeoMarble is we cover a lot of sectors and a lot of different types of projects. And when I think about diversity in the geospatial space, I think GeoMarble is a great representation of cutting across industry sectors and working often equally, both from technical implementation as well as various types of clients with different missions across the sector. So pretty cool slide here. Next, you go, Carolyn, we'll pass it to you.
Thank you, John. Carolyn, you want to just share about your company, and then we'll come back to GeoMarble to talk about their DEI endeavors after you share a little bit about North Point and what you guys are all about.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Carolyn Adams. I'm business manager and co-owner of North Point Geographic Solutions. So we're primarily woman-owned business. So I've been with the company since about 2014, so about the same amount of time as John in this industry. A lot of similar kind of credentials, I guess. We're an Esri Silver partner also. Primarily, we're focused on working with government agencies, nonprofits, forestry clients. So we have a lot of diversity in our client base as well. We also have several products that are in the Esri marketplace that we also won a award for recently at one of the partner conferences. And yeah, so we're primarily focused on the area of GIS, web application development, data management. And we've also been collaborating with Urban GIS and involved in EDGE for pretty much since the beginning, I believe, Keith. So it's been a good journey so far, and definitely looking forward to where it's going to keep going.
Thank you, Carolyn. Looking forward to learning some more about some of the cool things you guys are doing in DEI. And as you mentioned, longtime founding members of EDGE. So really, we thank you so much for all of your efforts and love to learn some more. So John, I want to turn it back to you to talk a little bit more about what you guys are doing at GeoMarble and why DEI matters to you.
It's as I prepared for this question here, I just want to state it's really a hard question to answer for me because I'm passionate about it both personally and professionally, and sometimes those blend together. But from a corporate perspective, I think it's really important for us to when I think about those pillars of EDGE, for me, when I think about it, it's the community pillar. It's the recruiting pillar, right? The ability to make sure that our team and our mission as an organization definitely is inclusive and welcoming. The geospatial industry is a global industry, and it is not something that I would say is warranted based on certain areas of groups, right? And we as a business, I would say, are just really focused on sort of qualifying candidates in our team based on their qualifications, hard work, and general GIS technical skills, and are welcoming people of all types into our business. We have a digital program. I'd say on the community side, one of our missions is, we've done 360 blogs, we've done over 50 YouTube videos of free content learning. Because an area for me that I'm passionate is education, in the sense that I feel personally that GIS is a place where it's often hard to get started in the industry if you don't have a background with it, if you didn't go to school for it. But sometimes you find yourself in this industry in various aspects, whether it's a primary role of yours or whether you're leveraging GIS in your job. And I think that if you were you got on YouTube today and you typed in, hey, I want to learn React, you get millions of videos of people trying to learn that. You do that in GIS, you don't quite get the same amount of volume. So GeoMarble definitely has a core mission in providing more available content to the community to learn freely and available for all peoples of walks of life internationally, as well as locally here for our community. This is a great photo of our team. Over the years, we've had internship programs that include people of diversity, ethnic backgrounds, and various cultures. And I think, again, as a business, it's sort of personal, right? Like, we feel personal responsibility in this industry to take this seriously, right? In our industry, and to support these missions that we have. So yeah. Again, I think good to be here with you.
That's amazing, John, to hear about the amount of content that you're putting out there. And I think your point is well taken about, if you can't see it, you can't be it. And
Right.
I would say the majority of us in this industry are people who didn't know about it at some point in college, or barely knew about it, didn't have high consideration for this as a career aspiration. But once we got here, we loved it. And, there's like no better place to be. And I actually did a test and when I was in college that I only knew of one school that had the major, but I did a career test later in life and everything lined up to be this, so I'm a spatial person. So it's amazing that you're putting that content out there, because everybody hears about programming, but they don't think about programming in this area. And maybe talk a little bit more about how your business is so depending on these things, and having folks like Kevin who, again, didn't come from the background that you can usher people into a great career track.
Yeah, Kevin's a great example of someone that we met peripherally. Right, Kevin's been a great colleague of mine over the last few years. And Kevin, I'll let you speak for yourself here. But Kevin is someone who has grown GIS exponentially, I would say, over the last 5 years of the organization. And primarily, I would say that's often harvested by community and support from both a learning perspective as well as collegial support, right? Like organizations Kevin has been a part of has all supported, right, growth. And that's not just for Kevin, but anyone in our industry, right? Like it takes organizations to A, believe in people, and B, provide a learning environment for them to grow. And so Kevin, introduce yourself. Great to be here with you.
Thanks, John, for the introduction. Hey, everybody, I'm Kevin. I've been working with GeoMarble for about 4 to 5 years now. I'm currently a senior application developer and solutions engineer. I got my bachelor's and master's in GIS from the University of Maryland, 2015 and 2020, respectively. This is the first time I've gotten worked at where I've gotten paid to write code, which is great. Previously, I worked at US Geological Survey as a GIS analyst, making maps for the National Mineral Information Center. And before that, I worked at as a cartographer at the Maryland Department of Natural Resources. Again, nothing feels good like writing code, so I'm glad to be here. Like I said, I've been working for GeoMarble since 2019. I met John Nordling while he was the instructor for my WebGIS course in my master's program. So I applied for a developer position at GeoMarble soon afterwards. First GIS developer job, like I said, and it's great to be at the forefront of applying programming technology to find new solutions to GIS. And I've been fortunate, previous slide, please. 1 second. Been fortunate to work with and learn many technologies in the tech stacks at GeoMarble, including Python API, ArcPy, a lot of runtime, previously known as runtime, but now they call it Maps SDK for .NET, Qt. A lot of new techs for mobile development, including .NET MAUI, App Studio. Also get to dip my toes in enterprise and ArcGIS Online a little bit too. So truly never a dull day working as a GIS developer. Next slide. And I thought I could fold this in there, but I'm very fortunate and privileged to be working in an industry where I can talk about my hobbies that are also touched by GIS. Can really talk about a lot of other jobs that are like that. When I'm not working, I like playing board games that have a lot of spatial elements and maps to them. And also like running a lot. I moved to Toronto last year, and one of my goals is to run every street in Toronto before I move out of Toronto, Canada, here. So I like looking at this map on Strava every time I do a run, see have I completed more routes on this map, because I want to see more orange on this base map here. That's where I am. Next slide. Okay, so one last thing I want to talk about is I want to spread the gospel of orienteering. Orienteering is you take a map, that you see on the right, and you take a compass and just go out into the wild and just get to points on the map. You're trying to find your way around the wild just with a point and a compass. And I bring this up because this is the perfect activity for the GIS and spatial-oriented person. You may think you're good at making maps, but that doesn't mean you're good at reading maps, as I found out maybe the wrong way, getting lost in the wild. So I explore everyone to look into orienteering.
Can't program
Anyway,
your way out of that one, Kevin.
Yeah, we can talk more about that later. That's what I had.
I love it, Kevin. And, you know, I love the personal touch. And this is why geospatial and GIS is so important, because, you know, when I started in this industry 20 plus years ago, people didn't understand it. They had no context because they weren't using the tools. Everyone uses some sort of geospatial tool. And I know personally for me, I like to use the mapping applications and not use the directions, and just use the map and at least know where I am on the map and guide myself. So, you know, keep that spatial brain active and going. And I think that's something everyone can do. But I think the cool part is, you know, like yourself, so many people, if they just get a taste of this industry and what's there, the sky's the limit. You're going to get exposed to so many different things, as you shared. And when you're with great organizations like GeoMarvel, who really support diversity, you can't be in a better place to really launch your career. So thank you so much for sharing, Kevin. Appreciate that. John, did you have anything else before we close up on your side at this segment and shift to North Point?
No. Yeah, good to go.
Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing, guys. We'll be coming back to you in a moment to do a little bit more crosstalk and learn a little bit more, but let's turn it over to North Point Geographic Solutions and find out more about their passion for DEI, their why story, and some of the cool things they're doing within the space.
Yeah, thanks, Keith. Yeah, so I guess just to talk a little bit about my why, I do have some notes for myself because otherwise my brain goes all over the place. So yeah, so just to, my personal why is a few different reasons. So one is just I have a diverse family background. So I personally grew up being exposed to a number of different cultures, and I spent some time living abroad when I was in college in a couple of different countries, and you know that had such a huge impact on my life and just perspective in general. And you know, I always encourage anyone who has an opportunity to live in a different country to go ahead and do it, because it's amazing how much it changes you know, how you come home and view things here, and helps you to question you know, just kind of how things have always been done. So I think that was kind of an original why for me. But as a business owner, I feel like I've always had an intention that North Point would represent more than, you know, just the work that we do. And I feel that businesses have a corporate responsibility to make efforts to improve the industry, and ideally to contribute to societal benefits as a whole. You know, so to that end, you know, as business owners and leaders in our organizations, I think we have both an opportunity and a platform as well to enact positive change by, you know, thinking about how we do things currently, and, you know, how we can act in the future with more social responsibility and intentionality, you know, within our business and, you know, outside of just the work that we do. You know, and I also think part of my why is that, you know, it just from a business standpoint, it makes sense. You know, so we're in a high tech industry. You know, we're always struggling on our end and to find good talent and retain them. And I personally have yet to meet a hiring manager or a business owner who's, you know, overwhelmed with talent and is trying to offboard good folks. You know, everybody's struggling for those resources. And, you know, I think that we need to find more ways to identify existing resources or you know, potential resources and foster a broader talent pool. So, you know, looking in, you know, kind of some of the non-traditional places or tangential industries to find folks. You know, so I think there's a number of reasons other than that from a business standpoint why I would want to support DEI, but you know, that's just kind of a key one that often comes up for me. and then the last point that I have here on the slide is that, is about business and corporate values. So kind of thinking about key EDGE pillars there, and thinking about what do you want your company to represent, and what are you willing to stand for, as an individual and as a company. And if you think that your voice isn't making a difference because maybe your organization's too small to affect change, I think that it does. We're a very small company, but we've definitely tried to make our beliefs and known, and what we stand for, and and I think that every little bit matters, and that we can affect change. I'm also a biologist by background, by trade, so I kind of have a special place in my heart for the Lorax from Dr. Seuss, and he has a great quote where he says, "Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, there's nothing going to get better. It's not." And that's kind of something that I feel like each one of us has that opportunity. So that's my why.
That's awesome, Carolyn. I've known you for a long time. We had a chance to go to many conferences and work together with EDGE, and you've been so gracious with your exposure in Minnesota and giving us an opportunity to have booths and for me to be a speaker. But I still learn something every time. I didn't know you're not only a pioneer, but you're a poet as well. Even if you're quoting somebody else, it's pretty cool to hear that. I love it. I've seen you DJ before and dance, so you're very well-rounded. Very well-rounded.
Thanks to you. Yeah. We have had those opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And I don't know if you want to share, just as a mom, shout out to you, Heidi, always, and the whole North Point team. And by the way, this is an interactive conversation, you guys. So by all means, jump in the comments, give feedback to the folks, put some questions in there that we can try to address. Carolyn, I know you've shared with me, it's also been personal for you, someone who's, has more of a Caucasian ethnic background, but having a son who's biracial and being able to have some experiences through that. How has that affected things? And, just maybe share any way you want on that regard.
Yeah. I think, first and foremost, I'm his mom, and it doesn't matter to me because I'm his mom. But I think that a lot of just events that happen in society, I think, I know your story, Keith, with why you started EDGE, was had a lot to do with events that happened in Minnesota, with some of the upheaval and aftermath of the George Floyd incident. And, as a mother of a young man who, kind of is at an age that I worry about him. I worry about him in a different way than I worry about my other son, who is, Caucasian. And to me, that it makes me upset as a mother that I have to think that way, that I have to worry about a different set of issues for my one son versus my other son. And I think that hits me in a sensitive place. So don't make me cry right now, Keith, because I will. But yes, that does make a huge difference, and is part of my why as to why I'd like to see more equity in this industry and opportunities for everyone, and for people to not just look at, oh, that's a Black man, and so I'm going to think about them in this particular way.
I really appreciate you being vulnerable and personal. I didn't mean to Jerry Maguire you or anything like that, but but these are real things, and we're real people. And sometimes we get so focused on business and money. At the end of the day, everything we do with these technologies hopefully is about people and helping people and making a difference. And while it's great to make money with it, I think we always have to think about, as corporately responsible individuals, our personal experiences play a part in it, right? And even if it's not personal on one side, just having empathy. That's a big part of DEI, is having empathy, being able to extend yourself beyond your situation to see the eyes and the vantage point of other people. And none of us have to say, hey, we can go back in history and change things, or we weren't there, but we have an opportunity to make a difference now. And we can look at the fact that there's bottom line business benefit, but there's also some part of it to say, I can do my part to right some wrongs and to help people who have been disenfranchised to have a better outlook, to have more hope, to feel like there's more people in the world who can be a part of that change. And that requires actions on everyone's part, including those of us who have a diverse background. We have to bring it. We have to do what we need to do as business owners, as individuals. But it is so endearing and so amazing when we have the support of the broader community. And I want to kind of do some crosstalk here and bring it back to you, John, and say, as someone who, from appearances, people say, okay, he's a Caucasian guy. This is really cool that he's super, concerned about these things. And I know you would do it anyway, but maybe talk a little bit more about your family background and how that might play a part in your passion for DEI.
Yes, I absolutely will. And I want to tap into something Carolyn just sparked for me. And Kevin, you hear me say this all the time, which is one of our it's not necessarily a mission statement, but something that we use here to remind us how we make decisions, which is people before profit. And I think that's really important, both internally as well as externally. I do appear sort of as a white Caucasian male. However, I come from an ethnic background. My mother is Sri Lankan, and I was raised in a multicultural environment. And when I think about diversity here, I think about my early years as a young man, and I didn't have a whole lot of opportunity. I actually started my career at a community college. I have a stack of rejection letters from universities because I wasn't exactly a stellar high school student. And I remember growing up and not necessarily being afforded the financial opportunities that potentially maybe based on my appearance might be assumed. And I was coming from sort of a hardworking middle class diverse family. And I got into GIS, and I very much appreciate what Carolyn you said there. Is I had the opportunity to travel the world. I've been to over 40 countries. I've started my career at NASA, and I also really started getting passionate about this in graduate school as I started to travel to countries like Africa and started to go to Asia and the Middle East and started to see that there were actually people that didn't have the education that I had, that didn't have the same access to resources that I had, but were having more impact than I was because they were passionate about their communities and the work they were doing in a different way than I was, in which I was just working a job at the time. And so as I started to evaluate this just from a personal perspective, it became really important to me that in running a business and creating a community that we definitely create an inclusive environment where it's not about where you come from and what education you have. And again, we have plenty of people on our team that we've taken a leap of faith in saying, we believe in your future potential.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We believe in your future potential. And that often you have to look past optics and appearances and education and what looks like on paper. And you have to look into that person, that human, and say, I believe. I believe that you're going to provide value back into our business. And also, honestly, like we all want to work with people that we enjoy to be around. Right. And I think I personally enjoy being around a diverse group of people because it grounds my morals and it makes me think about different people's perspectives on things, not always seeing it through maybe the television lens, right? But looking at it from sort of a human perspective. I married into I did not marry a white Caucasian woman. I married also someone of an ethnic background, and my daughter is of mixed descendants now. And I think, for example, something personal about me is my favorite holiday that we celebrate is Chinese New Year. Because my wife's family is originally from Laos, and I grew up always enjoying sort of the classic U.S. holidays. And then as I got married, I really started to fall in love with these other cultural holidays that knew nothing about. I had no cultural experience in them, but you can be certain that I am the first one to sit down to the table and start rolling dumplings because when you put your fingers into that culture and you start working with it, you start to feel a part of it, right? You start to feel not based on your color or skin, right? But you feel like I'm participating in a different cultural activity, and that has some a lot of self-fulfilling gratification for me. Kind of appearing as a white Caucasian male, but participating in other cultural activities. Because just because you're one color or gender, whatever, right, doesn't mean that you can't participate in other cultural activities, because being part of other cultural activities actually, to me, is what makes one part of a culture, right? That has nothing to do with classifications of the sort of these attributes that we would particularly associate. It's actually about your actions. It's actually about what you do, which involves you in that particular community. You guys got me rambling now. But I'm trying to think if there's anything personal with me as well. I do a lot of reading, and I do a lot of, so just educational wise, like, let's just start there, right? Because I think this is a place where you can't assume that you're just going to wake up and be educated on these types of topics. And I do a lot of listening to podcasts. I like to listen to what other people's opinions are on this, and ultimately help me get educated on the state of the world and our peers as GIS professionals, and one, how we can get involved, and two, how we can just stay informed, right? Make better decisions around diversity, inclusion, and equity. And personal drive around education, I think, is a really important one, especially on this topic particularly, right? Is to be a continuous learner and to adapt to new ways of thinking, right? New ways of approaching these problems. And as we talk about corporate, what we're doing, I think that evolves over time. And there's no right answer to some of these questions, Keith. It's really about your effort in it. It's about how much effort are you putting into this, right? And that ultimately is a direct line to your corporate responsibility to this sort of mission, I would say.
I love it, and there's no such thing as a ramble. This is a forum that it's free flow. And John, you've been consistent. From day one, I'd see you at conferences. Always been super supportive of EDGE. Always got it, and have been ready to do whatever it is you could do to support. So we really appreciate your thoughts and your leadership and your courage to step out in front and show the bigger guys, hey, this
Right.
These are two small companies. All of our companies are in the 20 or less ish type of range, right? We're not big companies, but I think you used the word, the intentionality. We're effort. Right. It can go a long way, and all we're looking for is some additional folks to come in and join us, and then collaboratively and collectively we can do that much more together. So from that front, I wonder, Carolyn, John, do you have any sort of practical things that people can do to kind of dip their toe in the water, or to maybe stretch where they are and to extend their intentionality and effort towards some practical impact through DEI best practice as small companies?
Yeah, I can jump in there, and also I just wanted to mention, John, I just realized then with what you were saying, we have something in common here. My sister-in-law is Laotian, and I grew up ever since I was about 14 having a Laotian family, and so damahung, lap, and sticky rice are like my comfort food. So I just some of the practical things that we've done. Just looking for opportunities to, find diversity hires. So, joining organizations like EDGE, and there's other organizations out there too that I would encourage folks to, think about joining some organizations, increasing their networking, challenging hiring managers or yourself to, even when you're looking at potential candidates, don't just go with, what looks good on paper and what you're used to, but also look at dig a little deeper and think about trying to include some folks from diverse backgrounds, and maybe even folks from, as John was saying too, from kind of some other industries that have the ability to learn, pick up the GIS or pick up programming. There's a lot of common ones. Like we often hire folks that are just computer programmers, or maybe they come from an engineering background, something like that. But we know that they have that right mentality mindset to pick up the GIS, and vice versa. If they're GIS folks, a lot of times they are capable of picking up the programming. So don't just go by what's on paper. Look at the person, as John was pointing out too. And again, another one that I think is really easy, and that we've done is coming up with a DEI statement, just talking about what are your values for your company and making those visible. So, posting it right on your website, have some values that are front and center so that folks know. And that's something that's kind of you can walk away and go do that today, or talk to your marketing department or something to put something up there, talk about your values and make it known. So.
Awesome. John, did you want to add in on that? And
I'd
Kevin
love
as well.
Yeah, I'd love to. The recruiting side, I think, is a really good point on the corporate side, and something that we did, and only recently, because we hired a recruiter, and during that process for us, we defined some requirements there, and said that for every candidate that position, we want to make sure that we have representation, more than just a single white male potentially for that, right? We want diversity in applicants, and I think putting that in a corporate sort of mission for recruiting was really awesome for us, because Kevin, I don't want to call you out on this, but there was maybe a time 4 years ago, Kevin and others came to me and said, hey, there's a lot of guys here, right? And I think it was you, Kevin. And since then, I want to talk about the corporate responsibility. The corporate responsibility is to listen. The corporate responsibility is not for it to be the leaders of the organization filling this down. It's actually to distill it and listen to your colleagues and what they need, right? And our organization being sort of small, it was really important for us to focus on diversity and team growth. And I think Kevin's a good example of someone who speaks his mind to our organization on, and pushes us, right? We have colleagues like Kevin that push our organization to being better at corporate diversity. And I'd say the responsibility there, our responsibility, is to hear and act on that, not to just let it fall on deaf ears. And I think if I look at our team makeup today, we've Kevin, sometimes we're outnumbered sometimes, and which is awesome in the sense that we've switched that role, right? We've switched that mentality here. We've hired certainly a lot more across different diverse groups, and the last thing I would say, which is the commitment to it, which and so this year, GeoMarvel, for the first time, something we're doing and talking about that is we're having our GeoMarvel team summit, right? We're flying everybody into one location, and this is something, we're going to talk about a lot of things, right, at a team gathering. But one of the things that we're going to do too is listen, right? What does our team need? What does our team want from us, right? From a corporate responsibility. And this is the time for leaders of organizations to tap into the needs of our team, and ultimately make good corporate responsibility decisions about growth, strategy, missions. And then the other thing is we're not hiding it, right? We partner with EDGE. We put it on our website. I think that's also a responsibility. It's just if you're going to do something, you should do it, right? And I think the GeoMarvel supports this, and I think we are going to continue to talk about it. We're going to continue to help market it, and we're going to continue to help put pressure on geospatial organizations to recognize it, because I think we're all aware of it, right? We're all aware, but it's also there's being aware and there's recognizing it, right? Recognizing it publicly, and I think there's a lot of value getting involved with groups like this, and letting your teams and your corporations that you work with know that you care about this kind of stuff, right, as people, not necessarily as employees or whatever.
That's great stuff, John, and Carolyn as well. And I want to follow up on something you touched on there, John. I think there's a responsibility for all of us as corporations, no matter the size, but probably the larger your organization, the more intentional you have to be about this. And that's listening. And that's hearing from your employees, because I think often companies think, hey, we have great ideals and values, and we're authentic as people, and we're philanthropic, but they don't necessarily know how their employees feel. They don't know that there's some lenses there or experiences there, some lack of inclusion or belonging within their organizations that is tainting people's experiences, is keeping people from maybe being their best in their organization, and certainly in staying. And so I think there's a big part of DEI here, that there's an awakening, and a lot of people kind of feel like, well, everything is fine, but because we're not as culturally sensitive, aware that it is difficult being a person who's not a part of the dominant culture. And there are cultural elements that you can feel like you can't totally relate, and people are just, it's kind of like radon in the basement. There's some poison gas there that you don't see it, smell it, taste it, but it could affect some people. I don't know if either one of you want to talk about that at all.
I agree with the radon analogy. Kevin, did you want to say anything? I thought you wanted to.
Well, I'll speak to what John said earlier. I think, Geomarble being, there's a lot of software developers in our, company, and it's really easy to fall into, kind of a trap where you could have fostered a, for lack of a better term, a tech bro culture. It's really easy to fall into that. But I think, I'm glad that our company has made steps to prevent that from happening, and to encourage less toxicity and more, openness between employees. I appreciate that, and I think it's probably a problem that's more common in GIS too, because there's a lot of crossover between tech, software engineering, and traditional geography. So I think that's something to keep in mind too. It's while we attract more talent from other industries and other fields that want to use GIS as a tool, it's good to maybe remember what are the values we want to hold on to.
Absolutely. I appreciate that, Kevin. And as someone who came from a civil engineering background, which also is underrepresented with women with diverse backgrounds, and then to come to tech and to kind of see that combination, there are some cultural elements that can be, not as endearing for certain people. And, the tech and what we're doing from that standpoint is already difficult enough, right? And trying to learn those things, being comfortable in your work environment, and also in conferences, right? So we have to think about that as well. I remember my first ESRI conference in the late 90s. It was an experience to kind of see that, that there wasn't as much diversity. You go now, extremely diverse people from all over the world, different walks of life. So our industry is making a lot of strides in that regard. I think one other part I want to touch on, Carolyn, maybe talk about how even as a small business, you can make small investments into doing cultural assessments and getting training in cultural sensitivity. Maybe talk about your experience with that. And I know the individual that helped you is actually now a part of the EDGE consultant team to help other companies with understanding dynamics like cultural sensitivity.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's another, another key takeaway or thing that, leaders and organizations can do, and even have some cultural sensitivity kinds of education and training done within staff. So the one that you're referring to, Keith, is the Intercultural Diversity Index, or the IDI. And so we did an assessment. I went through that process at North Point, and as you mentioned with Kevin Square Brown and his organization. And yeah, I think it was a really eye-opening for me, because it helped me to understand maybe where I had some implicit biases. We like to think that we, as individuals, that like, oh, we're so enlightened and we're so, there's no way that we would have any kind of biases, but I think we all have them, and I think it was really eye-opening for me to just kind of recognize what some of those were. And then once you recognize them and see the monster in the corner of the room, it's maybe not quite as scary, and you can start to address some of those things. And so that's, I think, something that is valuable to do at both a corporate, leadership level, as well as having employees do some of that kind of education and training.
Yeah, that's great. You can't change or help that which you're not aware of. And these are those silent sort of things that, if there's not a safe place for people to speak about it, or if there's not a level of awareness to even pick up, then it's difficult to try to address it. As we come to a close, I want to give everybody a chance to share any final thoughts or encouragement, advice, anything that you want to share. We'll start with you, Carolyn, and come back to the Geo-Marvel team.
Yeah, I guess a couple of final thoughts would be just, looking at seeking opportunities to expand DEI practices. And, one of the things that we also do is just sponsoring groups, scholarships, things like that with EDGE, I think is a great way of, promoting diversity and fostering that new generation of folks in this industry. And then we also sponsor, some local smaller organizations, like a local robotics club that, sponsors kids learning how to do robotics, and those are going to be our future, that's going to be our future talent pool. And so I think it's important to, look at ways as an organization that you can get involved in your community, get involved in the industry, sponsor STEM activities, all those kinds of things. And then also, as we've talked about here today, and I think it's been kind of a little bit of a theme, is that you don't need to be a big organization that has, a huge, impact just by making a social media post or something. You can be a small organization and still create change and have that intentionality for looking at yourself, looking at your company, looking at your staff, and just seeing where can change occur, where does it make sense, and just finding some of those opportunities, and all it takes sometimes is just pointing something out, just asking, why are we doing it this way? Is it because we've always done it this way, or does it really make sense, and does it really work for us? Oh, I think you're on mute, Keith.
Oh, great advice. I really appreciate that. Geo-Marvel team, do you want to share any closing thoughts?
Carolyn, I feel like you said a lot of the things that I would have wanted to say there. So I think you covered it. Just to add one thing is a lot of little small things can add up. And I think sometimes we think about having large, big, impactful change, and small change, small goals, 3-foot world, right? Can you impact in a very small way and compound that into a big way? And I think I'm trying to do that personally, right? Like, I think sometimes having these really, really mountainous goals to have impact just seems very, very hard to reach. And I sort of would, I guess it's not really advice, it's just sort of maybe my approach on it is let's solve the thing right in front of us. Let's have a small win. Let's address something in the community small, and ultimately over time that will compound into a larger impact. And I think that holds true in this DEI sort of topic here. And I think just personally, like not corporate wise, I think we can all do a little bit more, right? We all think about these things. And I think instead of maybe potentially thinking about it, like, I don't know, like let's do something one time and see how that feels. Did that feel good? And then maybe we do it again, over and over again. And then again, I can't encourage people more to sponsor both individually and corporate wise. Like, there's plenty of ways to get involved in this stuff. And so GIS is a very small community, and this is another community to get involved in inside of the community, which is even more incredible. So, and Keith, thank you for having me.
No, thank you both for being great sponsors and stewards with EDGE. We really appreciate you. And I know that what you're doing collectively within EDGE and individually as corporations is going to inspire a lot of companies. So we really appreciate the support, the great wisdom, and the dedication. Kevin, also thank you for joining. And North Point, you know, we got some great news to share down the road here, and we continue to work together. And I want to talk about, there's a good segue you gave me there to talk about how people can be involved and kind of what's coming up here in the next several months. So if we can go to the next slide, close things out. So in October, as I was kind of alluding to, we're going to be in the hometown of North Point, there for the Minnesota GIS LIS Consortium. I was keynote speaker there last year, thanks to Carolyn, and also thanks to her leadership and the great folks in that organization, and folks from Bolton and Mink, and a lot of cool people. They brought us back again to have a booth and to participate there. And I love being there last year because, you know, it's a very underrepresented, you know, state in general, especially some of the cities, but some of the warmest people ever. They really get it. They really care. They're passionate about it. So we're excited to be there again. November is Geography Awareness Week. You know, it's the big GIS day, and now it's expanded to a week. So we look forward to working with AAG and a number of different organizations to do our part to spread the GIS gospel and to help people know more about GIS and build that awareness. So stay tuned for that on social media. Next slide. And then we have a new newsletter. So we're excited about that. We continue to add some things and share some things. And so we're making a really big push on more social media, more writing, more engagement. So we need your engagement. We need you guys to follow. We need you to share it, to like it, to also participate, write some of your own things, to repost. This is a very practical thing you can do. Read these articles, share them with your company. These are easy wins to show your staff that DEI matters to you, and you don't have to do a lot of heavy lifting. So we're here to provide this sort of content. And again, we need your support as we continue to try to provide good information to the industry. Next. And then also same thing, we have a blog, and we're you know, right now it's about diversity dialogues and unveiling the inclusion's power. So we talked a lot about inclusion today. We continue to talk about these things in social media. So participate in this. We have both a LinkedIn group. We're on a bunch of different channels. So please get engaged on all those different channels, and we get a chance to talk about it. But GeoMarvel has an awesome YouTube channel, and they do a lot of content there. Let's all be a community. Let's raise the awareness of GIS and geospatial across these different platforms. And it starts with you. You can be a part of that change. You can make a huge difference in little ways, as was mentioned to start, and you never know how they impact things from there. Next slide. So a couple more practical things. You know, conduct your own DEI events, share them with us. Let us know about them. We'll share them to the community. We want to be a kind of a crowdsourcing place where we can get other professionals to come out, other people in the community to come out, and to just encourage people to do these things. Join our LinkedIn group, go to our website, become part of the EDGE network so that you can get all of these great things that we're putting out there on our email list. Next slide. And you can scan this to join the community and continue to educate yourself. Just make it a conscious effort for yourself personally, as well as your organization. You know, once a week, once a month, to learn a little bit about DEI, to help others know about geospatial. That's my email. If you want to reach out to me, that's our EDGE email. If you want to send some questions, and maybe for the last couple of minutes, if you got any comments, let us know. And within the comment trail there was a link to do a survey. We definitely want your support in knowing what we can do better. If you enjoyed this content, if you want to see some things in future EDGE-inars. And with that, we want to say thank you so much for joining us. You can also share this content. We'll have it on a couple different platforms for sure on YouTube. For those who weren't able to catch it, let's spread this thing. Let's make it go viral. Appreciate all of your time and support. Have a great day.
Thanks, Keith. Thanks, everyone.